So guys, welcome to Rage Against the Dice. Today we are recovering Deep Wars Part 1 and also expanding on it. So we're kind of combining Part 1 and Part 2. Now the reason that I'm doing that is I wasn't that comfortable with the first video. I put it up and it was only after I'd watched it back a couple of times I realised that we made it sound more jokey than it actually should be. Deep Wars is a game that I really enjoy. Antimatter Games make a fantastic product. I just felt maybe that we covered it like we were messing around. I don't know if anyone felt that. If they did, sorry. If they didn't, you get a bit of a refresher and we're going to cover the game in a lot more detail. First thing to mention is, I said in my previous video that you could get the rulebook in either PDF form or hardback. That's not true. You can get it in PDF form or you can get it in paperback, much like this. You can see that my cover's creased because I used to play it a lot when I first got it, so I used to take my book everywhere, which is why I've started buying them in PDF form now. It's easier to take just the iPad. But in terms of the game, I really like it. Obviously I covered a bit before, so I'm going to give you a bit of a game overview. It was a 28mm scale tabletop war game set in an alternative history, and that's in the late 17th century. It's got fortune seekers signed as scoundrels, and they've all discovered like a lost land within an underground sea miles beneath the frozen surface of the southernmost continent. Some of the information obviously I'm giving you now is taken direct from the website, other bits are from the rulebook itself. So they find ancient technology on their first excursions, and then they start using that to develop new ether-powered dive suits and weapons. And then they return to the bottom of the underground sea to battle with the deadly marine enemies over powerful artifacts, glittering crystals, and golden treasure on the sea floor. So yeah, as I said, it's all set underwater, and I think that's really cool. There's 4 factions, which I'm going to cover, just explain who they are, which is the Fortune Hunters, the Dark Mariners, which is who I play, and they're the models we're going to look at in a moment, because I have finished painting everything that I've done so far. Then, of course, there is the Ancients of Atalan, which is the one I can never ever remember the name of, and then the Scaly Hordes. Now, the Scaly Hordes look cool. They really do. I like all the different ones, and Dark Mariners were the ones that appealed to me to start with. But in terms of the actual game, I absolutely adore the look of the Scaly Hordes. I think they're really cool. As I said though, the game itself is a 28 mil scale. I'm just fumbling this video up. As always, Rage Against the Dice with its professionalism. But no, and you've got the 4 different factions of which you can choose one of. And you play little war bands, and it's sort of 4 to 8 miniatures, maybe a few more, maybe a few less, depending on the size. And then they actually level up. As I was saying before, the rulebook is really good. It has a campaign system in it. It also has the tournament rules, and it has single play in there. But what it also does, and this is fantastic, is it covers if you want to take a character like a Biome X and you want to create your own character, give him his own stats and things like that, you can certainly do so. And I'm going to quickly show you that in the book, which is, as you can see, prepared as always. So here you have it. It's got like a little section here, and this is the same kind of thing you'd have for your actual models within the game. You get your templates and stuff. That's really cool. But yeah, so it's this chart here, and I'm not going to show it in great detail because I want you guys to buy the book and find it yourself. But so you want to give your character big tentacles. Costs you 14 points. That's Dark Mariner one there, Fortune Hunters there. As I said, I'm not going to cover it in mass amounts of detail because I want you guys to buy it so that Antimatter Games get our money, in which case they use that money to make more products, more games, expand on what they've already got. The expansion has just come out for it quite recently, and that's kind of what prompted me to get back into it. I saw a lot of the Shadow Wars Shadow Sea stuff online, and I wasn't that fussed. I said before that I wasn't interested at all, and that's not actually true. I just wasn't that keen on it, because my main thing I love about the game is the whole underwater and using the depths and things like that. And that's something we'll cover when we go through the rules of it in another video. But they did a Kickstarter an expansion called Blood Reef. And I started seeing stuff kicking about for that, and that's what sparked my interest in playing the game again. So I dug out my old miniatures, thought, I've only painted 3 of these, best crack on and get some more painted if I want to do some videos. So then, as I always do, I said, Alan, this is the new game I want to play. And he was like, sigh, another new game? And then I explained it's all underwater. You get to be giant robot-y fish. And he was like, I'm in, let's do this. And as I said, so I have a mix of Dark Mariner stuff, and some of it's resin, some of it's metal, and some of it predates the Kickstarter even. So I'm going to have a look at that now and show you some of it, go through what it is, and show you my specific paint job on it. So the first models that we're looking at here are the Annihilator Biome X. Now these are my absolute favourite throughout the whole of the range that they do. Because it looks like a giant dreadnought-based Cthulhu. And I think that is awesome. And the rulebook describes them as a massive armour plating and writhing tentacles. The Annihilator Biome X are feared for their power in close combat. The claw and tentacles make short work of enemies after the disruptor blaster attached to their arm paralyzes them. So they just sound badass. Like, they just do. And these are, as I said, these are my models. And this is the one I painted first, and then I did this one separately, and I wanted to make them distinct enough, so I went with a blue, sort of a nice kind of blue for one on there, and then I went for purple for the crystals on the other. I would class these as just sort of my tabletop standard. I spent around about sort of 4 hours at the most on each of them, not long at all. But yeah, and it's just a built-up of Games Workshop bronzes, so I went from Warplot bronze to Sycorax bronze, and then Ironbreaker with a series of washes over the top. It's really not too hard to do, but because I've done those first, I wanted to tie the whole army in, so I've gone for kind of like that bronzy, mechy feel for all of them. So we're going to move on and have a look at the next ones now, which are, as I recall, or don't recall, as seemingly the case would be, the Octopod Stealth Biome X. So I'm just going to get those up and we'll have a look at those. And I'll tell you exactly what it says about them in the rulebook, and then we'll look at them in a bit more detail as well. So here they are. This is the Octopod Stealth Biome X, and as you can see, I've got 2 of them. One of which, very light, resin. The other one, very, very heavy, metal. Now the bases that I've used were just from Malifaux. They are the coloured Arcanist. Is it Arcanist? Yeah, the Arcanist bases. Just use those. You will notice on some of my smaller ones that the blues are 2 slightly different colours on one. That's just where Weird have changed the plastic they use, I guess, or the colouring on the plastic. It's really annoying, but I kind of have to accept it. I've got no other choice other than rip the old models I'd painted off the bases. But anyway, the Octopod Stealth Biome X, really, really cool. It says here, these devious biomechanical creations were made to slip into wrecks and enemy fortifications, silently open up entrances with plasma torches, so their larger, deadlier brethren could enter. Octopods will join into combat, but usually jet away in a cloud of ink when attacked. So that is one of the cool things that they have, is they have like a, I can't even remember what it's called, it's been so long since I played, but they basically poop out a big splat of ink, and they kind of hide behind it in a bubble, as I recall, which I think is really, really cool. But in this, because we're not going too much into the rules and stuff like that, we're just going to have a look at the models. So this is my first one, and with that, as you can see, I've gone for more silvers and more blues, just to add a bit of definition. Now the good thing about doing bases for things like these is I've gone for kind of like a blue effect, and I'm fully aware that the seabed isn't actually blue. It's, you know, dirt and sand and worn away bits. But I've gone with blue, so there. But it does mean that you've got so much opportunity when painting the little bits of coral and the little bits of stones to just really feel free to add what colours you want. And it really makes it popular, which is another thing that I really, really like about this game. Is it really sort of opens up a colour palette for you. As you can see, I've still gone with the bronzes and the silvers, but like I've got the orange starfishes, I've got purple crystals, I've got sort of reds and greens and pink bits of coral and that kind of thing growing on the mechs themselves. And it really opens up, you know, a whole new world of painting. I didn't go for the fleshy style tentacles. I was really tempted at first because it would use the pink, which would tie it in with my other things. But I wanted it to look, so I've just gone for like bronzy tentacles with silver at the bits where the tentacles have got damage on and stuff like that, so that you can see that yes, they are mechs, but they like that is like a coating of skin, but underneath there's the internal wirings and stuff. I don't know if it worked, but I like the look of them. But anyway, let's move on to the next one. So the next model that we're going to be looking at is the Vanguard Heavy Support Marine, which comes in the new version of the starter set for the Dark Mariners. It says here that some of the Vanguard Marines are support troops wielding heavy torpedo launchers that fire explosive crystals, guided to the target by a psychic link. These deadly weapons are feared by other forces, as even hiding behind cover may not provide them any protection. So straight away, as you can hear, these guys are awesome. And in terms of when we cover how to play and things like that, we're certainly going to go into their rules in a lot more and show you exactly what they can do. But for now, we're going to have a little goose at the painting. Again, everything here, these were all just tabletop standard, so 3 or 4 hours at the very most. You can see I got to do some reds for the corals, I got to do some little shells, some little orange bits on him there, I got to do some blues for the crystals, and some purple on the actual fin bit, just to... As I was saying, one of the brilliant things about them is that you can experiment. You can sort of, you've got that underwater feel. And if you ever Google, like seabed, you'll see that it's a bright, beautiful array of colours. And I've tried to incorporate those a little bit while still keeping this kind of bronze, steampunky, underwater diving suit kind of aesthetic going. But anyway, I'm babbling, as always. Let's move on to the next model. So I love these little guys, the Cepheid Scavengers. When I painted them, I just did this with dry brushing because it was so easy. And it's just, again, the bronze is the same. It's got some purple crystals. It's got the pink. And it's got some little bluey, crystally bits that are different down there. And then I did the eyes, which if you've watched my video on how to paint a Dalek, it's the exact same way I do the Dalek stem lens. Which is just blues and a white with a wash over the top, and then a bit of a glaze. So again, this was probably the quickest of all the models to paint. I did a lot more edge highlighting on them just to make them sort of stand out a bit. But let's see what the book says about them. So, scuttling across the seafloor, these little beasties are the smaller cousins of the larger cephalids, and are tasked with assisting them and scouring the bottom for bits of ether, technology and crystals. There are actually a group of 3 or 4 of these creatures working as a team within this unit, and you can see that there, 1, 2, 3 models. I'll just give you guys a little bit of a close-up. Again, I'm just working with the camera on my phone, so it's not exactly brilliant, but you can get the idea with them. Nothing spectacular or major in the paint job. It's just what I would class as standard tabletop, couple of hours models. You know, not too much work's gone into them, but to a standard that when we're playing games and stuff, they look nice enough, and they do from sort of that distance. So let's move on to the next one. So these guys are the Vanguard Marines, of which for some reason I have 3. I know one of them came in the original starter I got, and I think they just were 2 of the blisters that we had, as I said, in the store where I worked, who also did the artwork, or some of the artwork for the books, which is Worthy Painting and Worthy Gaming. So they were stocking it before the Kickstarter came out, with permission, of course. Now, as you can see with these guys, I've gone with a blue, a green, and then I went with a red. The reason for that being that I'm a massive Star Wars nerd. No other reason. One of them, however, as I said, I'd basically thrown these in one of my cases, and it had snapped, and I couldn't find the blade. So I improvised by chopping up Blood Angel's power sword, and a little bit of converting. I can tell it's different, but I'm happy enough with it. But anyway, the Vanguard Marine. The frontline troops of the Dark Mariners are the Vanguard Marines, mutated after twisted experiments by their commanders, but not to the point that they cannot be strong fighting force. Their repulsor shields protect them from many types of projectile attacks. So that's it. They've got like a shield on their arm. They've also got, as I said, the big spike-style weapon. So a repulsor shield, a spear, and then disruptor. So they're really, really good. They're your kind of meat and veg kind of guys. We're going to have a look at them. As I said, I want to cover these when we do the playthroughs and things like that. I'll cover what they can do in much more detail. Partly because I'm still rereading through the rules. I'm not going to lie to you, that's one of the main reasons. And the other is it's more focusing just on the aesthetic today and that kind of thing. So this is the one with green. Again, I've gone with this sort of green scaly tabards on all of them. That was originally just because one of the people I played with, he did all of his scaly hordes in greens and things like that. So that was why I sort of copied, kind of like, I've killed your stuff. And I've gone with a couple of different colours. I've gone with 2 different types of blues and a purple for the shields, just for variety. That was nearly him broken. This is the blue. I love this model, and all 3 of mine are metal versions. The only problem I have is this is really flimsy, which is how the other one snapped off. So you have to be really careful when you're storing it in a case or anything like that. And then this is the third guy where I went for like the purple, the red sword. Now these swords do glisten quite a lot. You see a bit more on that than on the red. And all I did was I used Citadel's technical hard coat to cover them. And it gave a glistening, but it doesn't pick up too well on the camera, which is disappointing, but there you go. So we're going to move on to the next one, and we're coming towards the end of it now. So if you're still watching and you're with me, brilliant, because as I said, I really like Deep Wars. I want it to be big, especially in the UK, because that's where I am, and at the minute it's not big in the UK, and that kind of makes me sad, because it's a brilliant game, really intense kind of game, very simple to learn, but you know, it's got some cool stuff to master. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to move on to the next one anyway, before I babble far too much. So this little guy's the Cepheid Biomancer, and he presented somewhat of a problem in terms of tying him in with the rest of my army, because he's mainly made of coral. So I had to sort of sneak bronzes and things like that in, and so I went with the squid that he's holding, or the little octopus that he's holding. I've gone with that as a mechanical one. And as I said, that just so it ties in, because tentacles were easy enough. I could put the greens and some bones and things like that, and then some little bits here and there to pick out the differences. But when it came to it, I wanted to have bronze on everything if possible. All except the Siren. I couldn't really think of anywhere where I wanted that on her, and I might. I'll show you when I get to the Siren what I mean, so I'm not going to babble on a bit now. But I'm going to tell you about the Cepheid Biomancer. So these cephalids work in the bowels of the living vessels of the Dark Mariners, perfecting the biomechanical monstrosities that form the shock troops of the Force. They carry control staves that help calm the raw senses of their creations, improving their abilities. So I absolutely love both this model in-game and the model as it is. This is a resin version of it. I don't know if they're resin or metal now, actually, because I haven't bought anything new in a while, and I fully intend to rectify that. But I really, really love him. Partly because he reminds me, for some reason, of the Black Mages from the Final Fantasy games. Especially like Final Fantasy 9, where you've got Vivi, and then you've got the Black Mages and things like that with the wings. I don't know why, but I really, really love this model. So we're coming towards the end of my models now. I know some of you are jumping for joy with that. Others, are slightly indifferent. So we're going to move on to the next model now. So this guy is the Cepheid Scientist. And again, he's another one who is made of coral. So I went for a green this time. Green being the colour that's on the loincloths and things like that. I went for some bone. I went for a blue crystal to tie it in with some of the others. And then I went for the copper kind of bronzy colour on this. And then again, I've gone for the pink tentacles. Now, this was mainly made up of washes. I actually sprayed it with an army paint of blue. And then I just used layers on layers of washes. And then I did some edge highlighting and some dry brushing to pick it all out. It was a very quick model to paint. I did it's hard to tell on the camera, but the underside sort of fleshy part as opposed to the shell bit on top are slightly different in colour. It's much more darker blues and stuff up at the top. If I'm honest, if I painted another one again, I'd do the underside in the blues and stuff, and I think I would go for a browny, yellowy, earthy kind of, carapace for it. But again, that's neither here nor there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you about the Cepheid Scientists. The Cepheids are a dire creation from the spawning pits. Their intelligence and ability to handle ethereal energy is a byproduct of the taint of the nautiloids of the deep sea caverns that's in their blood. But only a select few have the ability to study salvage artifacts and create new devices. And again, when we run through the rules and stuff for all of them, that is one of the ones we're going to talk about in depth. And then last one we've got is just the Siren of the Deep. So we'll get her lined up now and we'll talk about this beautiful little squid lady in great detail. Or in the same detail we've talked about the others in, so average detail. But yeah. And so here we have the Siren of the Deep, whose a genetic manipulation of female nobles of the Dark Mariners has resulted in a twisted mutation with the ability to telepathically call to enemies and induce a trance-like state, making them easy prey for the warriors and Biome X to move in for the kill. When attacked, Sirens prefer to retreat into shadows behind a cloud of ink. Much like we were saying when I was saying before that that's what the octopods do. So with this model, she's bare-stomached. I decided to go for a more of a corset look for her. And the reason that I originally decided to do that was I was going to do some piping and stitching around it with the bronzes. And I decided not to do that because in the end I was lazy. I think I am going to go back though. Either with this one or because I want to buy another starter set to get the Vanguard Captain and a few other little bits. I will get another one of this model anyway. And I think I'm going to do these shoulder pads in a bronze. But I went for purples, I went for bones. And I kind of tried to tie it in as best I could. But of my models, this is the only one I think that kind of leaps out at you as being hugely different. But when you're looking at buying all these, if you're buying them in America from Antimatter's website direct, they're all around the sort of $12.99, $14.99, and this is dollars kind of setup, except for the Dark Mariners Warbound starter, which is $44.99. I would suggest to anybody, I got the original Warbound starter and it was really, really good, but it's nowhere near as good as the one you get now, which comes with the Captain. It comes with the Siren of the Deep, it comes with a Vanguard Marine, and it also comes with a Vanguard Heavy Support Marine. And to my knowledge, that's the only way you can get the Heavy Support Marine. I could be wrong, and I think I may have mentioned it before that you can't get it. And as I said, if I'm wrong on that, feel free to drop it in the comment below. You can buy the Vanguard Captain by himself, you can buy the Siren, and you can also buy just the normal Vanguard Marines by themselves. But yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you how all mine look together so you can get a kind of overview of them and judge them harshly or judge them as you will. Yeah. So here they are. It's a mass of bronzes and pinks and greens, and I think, as I said, they do tie in quite nicely together. And I really, really like them. As I covered in the first video I did, other than the sort of the messing around, and that was just because, as I said, when I was filming it, we were filming it during a day where we were doing a lot of filming, and that video I kind of wanted to be just some light relief. And as I said, it just turned out in the end I wasn't a big fan of it, though. I felt that the way we came across in the video felt a bit disrespectful to sort of antimatter games and Deep Wars in general, which is not the case. It's a game I really love. It's a game I'm going to promote quite heavily. It's a game I want to see big, especially in the UK, as I said. But in terms of it, this is all my models so far finished. Once Christmas is out the way, because Christmas is a bit of a big one, especially like myself, if you've got the kids. I fully intend to pick up the Vanguard Captain next. I think it's a must purchase. And I'm also going to sort of verbally berate Alan until he eventually gets himself a starter set. But for now, when we do run starter games, we are going to run Dark Mariners versus Dark Mariner, and we're going to split it up, and it's just going to be a Vanguard Marine, it's going to be an Octopod, and it's going to be the Annihilator Biome X on either side, just so you get a feel of how the game plays, etc. But at the same time, everybody's got, similar or the same. Well, in fact, they'll be exactly the same models. So I'm going to end this here because I've prattled on long enough. If you watch part 1, you'll have already got some of the history of the game. If you watch this as well, then you've got a bit more. The next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to do you a video on just showing you some little bits of scenery and stuff that I picked up. Very, very cheap. And then the video after that's going to be kind of the playthrough, the look at the stats and things like that, because I think it has some very unique features to it that I would love to show off. So as always, guys, pray to the dice gods. I hope they smile upon you. Take care.